Salutations Space Cadets, and thank you so much for landing back on my channel. For today's mission, we have the patch notes for December 12th, 2023 for DC Dual Force. Now this one comes with some balance changes as well. We weren't really expecting that because we just had some balance changes last week, right? So we got even more, and they hit some pretty big cards. You might even already be able to see them on screen, as well as we got a new comic and some other cool things as well. So we're gonna go over those real quick, and this time they actually started to do a new thing here where they actually are explaining the patch notes and why they made certain decisions. So we're gonna go over those as well. But if you're here just for the basic stuff, we'll go over that first, and then we'll go in depth afterwards, and I'll let you know my thoughts on all of these things. All right, but let's get right into it. So now for Batman Noel comic adventure is live. So that comic adventure comes with Bah Humbug, which is a card that is a silver rare action that is in tactics, and your opponent can't play actions next turn, draw a card. Now this one is kind of hard to evaluate. It's like, I feel like it's like very situational, and not even all decks that play tactics would want to play it. I feel like it's very hard for it to be in tactics in general, because tactics has some of the best like overall cards in the game. So it's actually kind of like one of the hardest factions to deck build around, because everything's pretty much a pretty good option. So it's hard to find like a mid card and try to slot that in. Now I could see in certain metas where this really mattering. Of course, it helps mitigate, you know, some explosive Shazam turns, or, you know, it coming up with the gold turn for a Tyranny player, and then they can't massacre your big board that you set up, you know, hopefully. So, you know, there's that. But, you know, even if it was a bronze, it would still be kind of rough to play as well, because you're probably going to want to save this for mid to late game anyway. So you're probably, it's probably not even going to matter. Your bronze resource is not even going to exist anymore. So, you know, it's kind of rough. But I mean, we basically got 2 for 1 this week, because we were supposed to get Starling this week, I believe. So us getting Bah Humbug instead, since they accidentally released Starling, it now means that we're kind of popping off. We got 2 cards in a week, essentially. So that's pretty nice. And it also comes, we also get this Catwoman card back right here. I can't really zoom in on it, but yeah, it's pretty nice. It's been on the home page art for a long time, so it's nice that we finally got to get it. But now let's get into the balance changes. And as you can see, right off the bat, we got something pretty big here. Appetite for Conquest now reads: give enemy recruits everywhere -1 power. Give your recruits everywhere +1 health. Draw a card. Now Appetite is like, it's like way worse now. I don't know if it's necessarily unplayable. I think it's too soon to say that, but Jesus Christ, yeah, I was kind of campaigning. I was campaigning just for it to be minimum 1 health, because it was kind of dumb where it just destroyed a good portion of people's decks, including even like people are like in the defense. Oh yeah, aggro needs some sort of thing to you know, to combat it. You know, Tyranny, they need that. I'm like, you're acting like Appetite only works on one deck. You know, Appetite also stopped Mira and their tidal waves, as well as the new card Siren with the tidal waves, and you know, it becoming even more popular because the Aquaman stuff got buffed this season. Then you have, if you end up killing off the Shazam, Billy Batson just auto dies. Kong Kanan, I mean, it's not like that was a super good card anyway, but that auto dies. Imagine your silver dying. You know, you're 7-1 dying to the Appetite, and you just brick your draws. So I feel like this was a much needed change. Personally, I wouldn't have gone as hard on it. I don't think the card should be dead or anything. I just think it should have some lover. But yeah, if I don't have to deal with Appetite pretty much anymore at all, I'm totally fine with that. This was like my most wanted card change. That was reasonable. I have some unreasonable changes that I really want, like please delete Hugo Strange from the game. I know, that's weird to say, but I hate Hugo more than any card in this game. It's actually so annoying. But yeah, now getting to next one. 5-4 for Robin. Robin was a 5-5, it is now a 5-4. It now dies to things like Energy Blast, a Man-Bat attack, things of the sort. Robin was already a pretty highly contested recruit in the first place. Usually when you see a Robin on your board, your first priority is usually to get it off the board so it doesn't get its insane value off of it. That makes it harder to trade too, because now Robin can't just freely attack some things. Now it's gonna die to some various trades as well. And now if Robin wants to attack a 3 attack unit, it's gonna go down to 1 HP, and if you're fading against tactics, it's gonna get bataranged. A lot of things are gonna ping it for that one last bit of damage, even if it wouldn't have died anyway. And honestly, Robin was really strong, but you know, I was kind of, even though I have a disdain for tactics stuff, Robin, you know, I wasn't really clamoring for a nerf, but it's something that's actually just reasonable. It makes sense that it's getting nerfed. Next, we have a buff to someone to the same stats, Superboy. It's funny how someone that is Superboy related to Superman is weaker still technically than than Robin. In terms of power level. It's kind of funny though. But Superboy is now a 5/4. So now with Black Adam, you're going to see that on the channel fairly soon. Black Adam now gets buffed up by the lovely Superboy as well. And that just helps the shield package and other things like that. Maybe even start doing some weird shield package Superman Black Adam stuff. Who knows? Maybe this lets you experiment a little bit more, make it a little bit more reasonable. And you usually were just like you had this nice value from Lois Lane and all that other stuff, but you still didn't want to play like some of the shield units. You know, sometimes you don't really want to play your Superboys. You don't want to play your Kongs. So it's nice that they are buffing up some of those options and making it a little bit more viable. Though I don't particularly want shield to be good. It's not a really fun keyword to deal with, but you know, it's still nice to have other people enjoy their strategies, you know. Then we have another hit to giant anglerfish. It is now a 2/2, was a 3/2, was before a 3/3. So now it got knocked all the way down to 2/2. You know, now if you somehow don't get your Aquaman ability off, and probably because of double Hugo Strain, screw that card. Now just one Atlana won't be able to buff it up to 5 attack, I guess. But in pretty much almost all the other scenarios, I guess you would need, by itself, without drawing Atlana, you would need 3 Aquaman triggers in order for your anglerfish to get off now. Before, it was only 1. Alright, wait, actually, yeah, maybe you only need two or three triggers or something like that in order for your anglerfish to do anything, to buff itself. I mean, it was kind of crazy that the fact that the buffing card could also buff itself. Like, that was kind of crazy. I mean, at least they let it keep the fact that it can buff itself. You know, if I were ever to see a hard change on it, I would say that would probably be its change, but I'm kind of fine with it, you know, as me playing Aquaman nowadays, and now I'm defending it. Now we got a buff to Jason Blood. Now it is a 4/5 instead of a 2/4. So we got +2 +1 in terms of its stats. It's kind of interesting, you know, it might let people experiment with Jason Blood a lot more. And for those times where you can't you can't play 2 spells on the same turn you activate or summon Jason, now it's more likely to live until the next turn. Or in the other sense, where you can let your Jason Blood there, then you can attack, kill off a unit, and hopefully your Jason Blood still lives, and then you can transform into Etrigan, and then it basically heal itself. Even if it turns back, it should keep its base stats, which is pretty nice. So, you know, maybe you experiment a little bit more with Jason Blood and you start getting your rhyming on. This might be the start of your rap career with that one. Then we have one that's interesting for a meme player such as myself. We have a buff to 6 blessings. It now gets +3/+3 instead of +1/+1 to these stats. And that's kind of crazy. We had a meme deck that you can find here on the channel where we were only playing 2 recruits in our entire deck. It was Hal Jordan and the Poison Ivy recruit. So you pretty much hit 6 blessings. Then you do Friends in High Places, guaranteed to hit one of the 2, and then you have some double attacking Giga Chads there. So now this makes this even better. So especially for the Hal Jordan side of the thing, if I want to play that meme deck again. But this might just be nice in general. Maybe you want to play a little bit less of a bronze curve, play more crystal balls going on there, and then, you know, use 6 blessings and get a real threat. Like if this hits something like actual worthwhile, then you have a monster in your hand. It has what? Aura, Evade, Flurry, Guard, Speed. I think that's all the ones, and maybe like some other keyword I'm not thinking about. And then also has +3/+3. That's a monster right there. So maybe you want to try out 6 blessings now. Then we have a buff 2. Oh, welcome to Task Force X. It now gets +2/+1 instead of +2/0. Now that's kind of crazy. That's a buff to pretty much all your Suicide Squad members. And then if you play a second one, that's a buff to all those ones that now became a Suicide Squad member. And those things are getting real buffed up. I feel like a big issue with Suicide Squad was, sure, it was getting a bunch of attack, and if those units managed to stay on board, they would do tons of damage. But the problem was those units weren't staying on board. Now it having plus health to everything. Now that is, or everything in your deck when you activate it, for all the Suicide Squad members, that's kind of crazy. And it might make Suicide Squad just a tad bit better, I would say. But it's still, you still have to draw it. That's the hardest part about this card. This card is really good, but you have to draw it. And you don't gain any tempo from it. You have to play an action with nothing. So even if you play a turn 1, if you're going second, that's even worse for you. If you're going first and you start with this card, then this card is really good. If you're any other turn, though, it gets worse and worse. As the turns go by, it gets worse and worse and worse. So it's basically go first, draw it, win, or lose. That's kind of how it feels like with Suicide Squad in general. And there are no bug fixes as far as I know in this, so unfortunately no Penguin fix. I don't really care about that one. Killer Croc fix, no Killer Croc fix, and no All Hallows Eve fix. So we're still waiting for those, but we got 2 balance changes in a row, bro, so pretty nice. Now let's get into the gameplay side of things. We have Black Manta Leader now shows the correct number of cards discarded from the opposing player's deck. Didn't really notice that, so I guess maybe it was lying to us this whole time, and that could have maybe lost a lot of people games, because you may have wanted to go for certain plays, but maybe it was visually different than it actually was, and you missed out on lethal because of that. So, you know, it's not like you're going to be counting those cards down, so I guess that's a nice change there. Then we're on the general changes here. Players are now able to edit cards from the deck selection screen when they are at their deck limit. The edit deck button located on decks in the collection and play screen now work properly. Very helpful, because that was kind of annoying. They added a new feature and then it didn't really work as intended. A lot of us are sitting at 20 decks in our deck slot, so not being able to just click it from the play button was kind of annoying, but luckily they fixed that really quick, so kudos to them. Okay, now we're going to get into the reasoning behind their changes, so stick around for that if you're interested in knowing why they changed certain things. All right, let me scroll all the way up. Sorry, this is the same page I had open since ending stream, which you should check out Monday, Thursdays, twitch.tv/agentxspacely. But let's see, what they said was, accompanying our patch notes this week, we have gotten some insight from the design team into the changes being made to the game. This was a point of feedback given on our last set of balance changes via the Discord. As always, your feedback is a major aid for us, and we appreciate the input. Now, the thing I am not totally sure on with this is, I don't know if they mean that they took our input in the cases that we want to know why they're making certain changes, because I know that was all heavily requested, or they were saying that they take our consideration on what card we want changed into consideration from our complaints in the Discord. So, or they're talking about both. So I'm interested to know a little bit more about that side of things. But here's the reasoning for why they changed Appetite. So this card has been on the balance team's radar for a while now. It is a powerful and heavily played card, and its usage only continued to grow after recent changes. Tyranny has many powerful golds cards at its disposal, but this one has been seeing near ubiquitous play, stifling many of the other available options. This change is aimed at keeping Appetite for Conquest as a strong option for control-oriented decks, but making it less of an automatic pick for all decks in this faction. Now, I don't know how much this is going to actually make it so Appetite is a strong option still. I mean, it is still like, that's like, if this still came out, like, this still seems like a powerful card, but knowing where it came from into now, it feels weird to play it still. No, but this is probably not a terrible card, but I feel like after the nerf, no one's going to play it. But in actuality, it's probably better than it actually seems. So I would say still try it out, you know, give it some games. But it might just be where it's kind of dead at this point. But actually, don't try it out. I don't want to face any appetites in whatsoever, in any fashion, bro. So I'm good. But yeah, so the reasoning for Robin, the boy wonder, is one of the premier silver recruits for tactics, but we felt he was slightly too good at too many things. While his evade makes him hard to deal with by attacking, his substantial health made him a little too effective at surviving removal by direct damage, such as things like Energy Blast or your Batarangs or whatever. This change is intended to make him more vulnerable to cards like Energy Blast and Hellblaze, while still keeping him as an attractive option for most tactics decks in the silver slot. They're basically just saying, hey, if you want to counter Robin now, play Energy. is this an Energy promo that they're giving here? I mean, I like their. I mean, it's definitely understandable what their reasoning is here. It definitely makes sense. It's just I don't know. I as much as I don't like tactics that much, it's still like I feel like Robin's one of those cards that you just kind of just. You're like kind of fine with it being strong. It's like it's not so offensive where you're like I hate Robin. It's just more so like oh wow, Robin's a strong card I got to deal with. But there's other cards that you would like probably hate more in there. But I mean, if they're ever able to take a point off of a strong card, then you know hopefully you know then they should you know if it's a strong card and it doesn't kill the card by taking a point off, sometimes they might as well do that, whether it's getting rid of his health or attack or do a -1/-1 type situation there. So it's always something that they can play around with, and if they find out in their metrics that Robin's too bad now, then they'll probably change it back. Then we have the chains for Superboy. While this stat increase may look like only a small change on paper, we think this will provide a serious boost to Superboy's effectiveness. This should help multiple archetypes, and they're right, this will help you know, the Superman shield thing. This will also help the Black Adam decks, even though that deck already just got a little bit of a buff, which is nice. And then this might just help just in general. Just having a 5/4 shield, it's almost as if you have another guard card in a way. It's almost like you have like a little bit of a nerfed steel in a way, which is kind of nice. And it's gonna be a little bit harder to deal with, and now you can clear a bunch more stuff as well. It's kind of interesting. So I would definitely try out more Superboys. This one might be a little bit of a underrated but pretty good change in all actuality. Then we have the change to Giant Anglerfish. This change will make it a little more difficult for the anglerfish to grow itself. When summoned by Aquaman or Throne of Atlantis, I still don't know really who's playing Throne of Atlantis, but it will typically be in more of a support role rather than being able to easily overwhelm enemies on its own. So yeah, they didn't really like that dual function of Anglerfish. Not only did it buff all your recruits usually, it's depending on what the deck you're doing. And it just also was a big body in itself because it could buff itself in a lot of cases. So like after just 2 Aquaman charges before Atlanta existed, then your anglerfish is starting to buff itself, and then it becomes more and more unkillable. So now that they shaved off like a point of health and a point of attack off of anglerfish, it's gonna die a lot more easier, and it's not gonna be able to buff itself as easy as well. It's gonna take a little bit of time for it to ramp up. But if you get your Atlantas off, then it shouldn't be a huge difference in what you're gonna notice. But I feel like the general Aquaman deck is gonna be really hit by this, but the like Black Adam type Aquaman decks aren't gonna really feel its effect too much. But yeah. Then we get into the reason why they changed Jason Blood. Now, Jason's low stats have made it difficult to keep him around when you can't immediately transform him into Etrigan. This boost will hopefully make him a little less of a vulnerability for those times when you need to play a silver recruit, but don't have the spells ready to transform him. Yeah, it's kind of rough in all types of setup cards in general. They usually die so quickly that it's just like, why am I even playing these cards? Like, your Stargirls, your Jason Bloods, things of the sort. It's just hard to play those cards because they just instantly get targeted and instantly die. And you're just like, sure, they have to expend some resources in order to out my card, but like it just feels like my card did nothing. It was basically just a target dummy. I want to, usually for me personally, I want my cards to do something when I'm playing them instead of just being some distraction. Unless I'm playing obviously like a parting shot or a guard, those are obviously supposed to be distractions. But things like this with a setup card, I'm wanting to get their effect off, you know. So it's nice that, so like I said earlier, it's more able to trade and to transform into Etrigan, or, you know, a little bit more likely to live, and only really dies to things that are in its faction or a Cullen. So, I mean, those are pretty common factions, I would say. I mean, energy is a little bit less played nowadays after getting hit like 30 times. Yeah, so, but it still dies to tyranny quite often, which is kind of rough. Even Etrigan kind of dies to tyranny as well. They only need like the tactics tyranny deck, because they just need one freaking tear gas, and then they kill your Etrigan as well. So, you know, it's still going to be kind of rough to play it, but it's definitely something to look into. Like, this might be like a hidden threat. Like, this might be like, oh wait, this is way better than you were thinking type of situation. But so far, I'm not too convinced on them. But the one I'm most excited for, though, the 6 blessings, dude. Yeah, so the payoff for playing your blessed recruit wasn't quite as impactful as we hoped it would be. This increases to the stat bonus should really make that character feel that they are blessed by the gods, and provide a bigger incentive to try out some fun late game combos. So yeah, this is pretty nice though. I'm actually pretty excited for the 6 blessings change. You're probably going to see some meme decks focused around it, but we might try to see some serious decks and see how that really goes. I mean, I could see like a Green Lantern getting hit with one of these, and it still pop off on that same turn. It's getting guard, evade, aura, speed, and flurry, and +3/+3. Could be kind of cracked in that type of deck, as well as, you know, some other variations of like maybe some might thing. I don't know. There's something to think about. Maybe even, what if your 6 blessings hit a Mr. Mind that grew, and then it has hidden still? I mean, of course you won't get use of the guard, but the Mr. Mind can be beefed up, and then it can be real crazy. Imagine if this gave Hunter though. Jesus. If 6 blessing gave Hunter, then this card's cracked. Then you're going to see one shots from Poison Ivy all the time. You probably don't even want that to happen. But yeah, that's pretty sick. But yeah, then we have Welcome to Task Force X. Can be a tricky card to properly build around and execute. Our data showed that it was underperforming our expectations, so we decided to give it a little more juice by adding a health increase. Now, I'm wondering where they expected Welcome to be, especially upon release. I feel like maybe in their testing, they thought this card was probably broken. And it probably could have been, but for, you know, unlike how people always seem to draw Steve Trevor, and always draw Hugo, and always draw Ivy, Flytrap, and all those things, this one was one that it was weirdly people rarely drew. I mean, people were rarely playing Suicide Squad in the first place, but then they were rarely drawing it when they were playing it. So it gets kind of rough. And the biggest issue, like I was saying earlier, that Suicide Squad has is like the lowest health, you know, and their recruits are like, they don't have a lot of early game recruits, you know. If you don't find your Amanda Wallers or your partners in crime, then you're kind of shit out of luck, you know. So, but now your units are more likely to live. It still has that issue where Suicide Squad probably needs a little bit more bronze recruits, and then it's kind of chilling. But for right now, I mean, this is definitely a welcome change. It's definitely going to help. And it's nice that they saw that it was underperforming and they decided to give a little bit of a change. So maybe this is where you try out Suicide Squad a little bit more. But yeah, that's all the changes that happened today. Let me know in the comment section down below. Did you like these changes? Would you have made different changes? What are you hoping they still change? And do you like the new comic card? I would love to know that in the comment section down below. But if you like the video, make sure you like it and subscribe. About 44% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel. This was all the way up at 68%, but you guys have been killing it with the subscriptions here, and we lowered that all the way down to 44%. So let's go even further beyond. Okay, let's go plus ultra, if you know what I mean. And I would greatly appreciate that. And we do stream a bunch of games, especially our rank climb, Monday through Thursday, sometimes Friday, on the Twitch channel and the YouTube channel. The Twitch channel is at twitch.tv/AgentXSpace. You'll find those in the links in the description down below. Or you can watch here on Agent X Cartly, whatever you prefer, whatever your platform of choice. I greatly appreciate that. But hey, that's going to be all from me. I'll be blasting off, and I'll see you soon, Space Cadets.